Hey everybody, welcome back. This will be my last video of the night. I'm just doing 3 brands tonight. I'll probably do some more tomorrow because I want to get this out of the way. So this next brand is the WCW Fed roster. And I'll show you the champions when the champions obviously come up as well. Undecided right now is the WCW Hardcore Champion. Now, this was a $10 belt I found on eBay. I do have a much more prestigious looking custom belt coming very shortly. It's part of the many belts I bought from Chaos Wrestling, the belt maker. I think that's what it was, Chaos Wrestling something. And I do apologize if I misspell it, pronounce it. But until I get his belts, I can't really review them. I can see from the pictures and other people's reviews they're really good, so I'm looking forward to this. So it's a placeholder belt. Again, it was only $10, whereas that belt cost me like $25. Let's begin with the belt or the figures, shall we? Now, obviously in WCW you have very limited selection when it comes to ultimates because they haven't really made anybody. Now, we had a chance at DDP and we had a chance at Scott Steiner. Just saying, we had a chance. I'm going to leave it at that. So let's start with obviously the man who is synonymous with WCW, who was released by Mattel. Naturally, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And of course, he's got the really hard to find WCW World Heavyweight Championship, which I did get a custom version of this coming as well. It's supposed to be bigger. So I'm debating on if I should just upgrade to all these really great detailed belt makers and then just kind of cash in on these Mattel belts, these authentic Mattel belts. Because this belt still goes for a good amount of money. It cost me a lot when I found this belt after I sold my first one off, and I was like, man. But then again, I don't know. It just depends. We'll see how the belt looks. It's definitely too tiny for these guys. It looks weird. And then this guy, I decided to throw in WCW. You're probably wondering, well, hey, you were doing WF, but where was Macho Man? Well, I decided to throw Macho Man, throw him in WCW without Hogan. Give him, his time to shine in a different brand without having to deal with Hogan. So, obviously this Macho Man upped him a little bit. I added the boot tassels down here. I feel like it gave the character more of the WCW kind of look of Macho Man. Of course, we don't have any Macho Man coming right now. So let's come out with that WrestleMania 7 attire. Then that got pulled. This, of course, comes with that crowdfunder, the first successful one. So I have 2 more sitting in box. So I'm not too worried about taking one out for a little while. Now, you're thinking, okay, that's it. That's all the WCW roster. What a roster. 2 guys. No, I'll start with one of the simplest ones. And most people have been doing this. I've seen it. I wasn't the first one to come up with the idea. Some people beat me to it before I could get the figure proper. But here's the Giant. You use the Mattel Basic, or you can find the Elite head if you want. I feel like the Basic one looked better because it's more of that real scan technology. And it's just on an Andre the Giant body. You can tell, it's a little bit bigger and whatnot. I've seen people turn him into a really good Big Show and put decals and whatnot. And if I see one out there, I might end up doing that and maybe moving him to the WWE roster. But for now, he's needed in WCW. I don't have enough representation of that. Then I found this guy, and you can find him periodically here and there. The hair is the only thing I don't really care for because it's kind of like a sticky material. But you got to go with Great Muta. I know people are going, well, hey, he's a Hall of Famer in WWE. Why haven't we signed him to a Mattel deal yet? Maybe. One day. I don't know. This guy did a really good job. The painting is by hand. Really smooth lines. No decals. I believe he just used Jeff Hardy pants and acetoned off all the decal to it. AJ Styles torso, obviously decaled off or acetoned or nail polish removed with the tattoos. Really good figure. Really clean. This one, I went on a huge hunt to find a version of him I liked. At first, I found one. It showed up. It was 95 looking. It was wobbly. It was not good quality. So that sucked. Then I found one from the 90s, and it was good. Bleach blonde hair, Definitely, in his heyday, but I didn't grow up with that one, and I wanted the more iconic looking one. Then I found another one with no shirt, no singlet, just a cloth piece of shirt over him, and it worked, but wasn't that great. Then I found one that was perfect, except for you can see the pink out of the back of it. It was starting to fade away. They didn't seal it properly, if they sealed it at all. But I sent him away. I paid $30, and in return to me, Sting. Now, he didn't paint the Scorpion up into the singlet. I didn't want any of that. It said, just leave it the way it is. Just, can you paint the black to where it doesn't bleed? And then he even went and switched the hands on me and gave me the mini Scorpions. The only thing I haven't done is I haven't found Sting boots to put the Scorpion decals. I thought about doing that, but then I was like, it doesn't really matter to me. He's currently the WCW United States Champion, which I'm hoping that Mattel does release the other version where there's only one side plate on each side, and they shrunk it down a little bit more, I think. So, okay, we got 5 guys now, but it didn't stop there. You might, if you check eBay like I do, I check it a lot. It's probably one of the reasons I'm broke a lot of times, because I do find stuff that I'm like, ooh, I really got to have that in my roster. Ooh, I should really, now that I can make these guys myself, if they're not too decaled, or too detailed, I should say, I usually do it, make them myself nowadays. But if it's somebody who does require paint, does require a head sculpt, I'm leaving it to the professionals. I don't consider myself, I'm a Frankensteiner, not a customizer. So, this was interesting. These were posed in groups of 4, this group was, and I didn't need the Ric Flair. I already had the Ric Flair, but the other 3 caught my eye. So let's start with the first 2, the Brainbusters, or Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. Now, if someone did make one with an Ole Anderson head on it, I probably would snag it up if I saw it. Just to add him in there. It'd be weird because it's obviously not the 4 horsemen when you got 5 guys, but yeah, you can have rotating members. Now, the only thing is, obviously, we still, he kept the double jointed arms, which means they lost their wrist tape function. I'm thinking about going back and switching that out, but right now there's nobody with that skin tone that has white wrist tape, so I'm just leaving it as is right now. It's not a big deal. They wrestled sometimes without wrist tape, from what I've seen in some of the videos in the past. So I could have switched the arms, but the arms would be awkward colored because they are not. It's clear he used a Shawn Michaels torso for this one, a Razor Ramon torso for that one, so there's tan to them. But it works because their legs are tan. A little bit of white, a little bit of miscolor in that one. However, this one, though, came out really well. And he's since put wrist tape on the newer ones he brings out, but I just said screw it and put a Shawn Michaels glove on there. And you've got Barry Windham. The legs, obviously, from the Barry Windham figure. The torso is from the Stone Cold Steve Austin torso. It makes him look taller. It definitely sits taller. It looks like the heel Barry Windham. This one I got, and then I got the 93 version of him, and so I sent this one away originally to have it turn into a Lance Cade for some reason. And then I did not like the 93 version. It did not sit well with me. I contacted the person I sent it away to. I said, hey, have you done anything with this guy yet? He goes, no. I'm like, good. Just leave him as is. In fact, just send him back. We'll just scrap the idea. He's like, do you want to put any decals on? You want to make him 2000s look? I was like, no, just leave him as is. We kept him. We left him. And so I got the total package Lex Luger. And I love the butterfly joints because with the butterfly joints, the torture rack is possible. Fully possible. Whereas Elites, you kind of struggle a little bit here and there. You can actually put someone and pose them in the torture rack. So it's WCW look all the way through. So he's staying in WCW. Then that customizer that I got the Iron Sheik from told me that he had just made this guy. Now this guy has a Mattel release. So I wouldn't expect people to go out and do this to begin with. But I did because I wanted WCW more or less looking, and this was close. Who am I talking about? Ravishing Rick Rude. So you can tell it, it's the Warrior. It's Feel the Heat. It's definitely his SummerSlam 88 or as a 90 match, I think it was. Actually, no, it's not. It's because he had like bars and whatnot in the Warrior's face on there. So I'm gonna say like maybe 88, 89 look to it, but definitely a WCW looking Rick Rude. One thing you lost on this figure though, you lose his tattoo. I thought about putting the arm on there and switching it, but it's too tan. Rude did have a more or less a more whiter complexion. Obviously in his WCW more look, he did have some dark tan at one point too, but near the end of his active run, it started to become more pale white. Of course, if I was to put that Rude body on this figure, the head would be completely jarring. So this is WCW Rick Rude, best you can do. Maybe one day I'll get a decal put on there just to have the tattoo. If it's one tattoo, I can live with it. If it's a whole body of tattoos, that's too much. So I won't build a Karrion Kross because I don't have any of his tattoos, and it looks stupid as heck without any of his tattoos on there. Next guy I asked him to make was, I was like, okay, well, you made these guys. Can you make this guy as well? I was like, I can send the parts if you need. He's like, no, I got the parts. And he used the Scott Hall torso, because this guy does have chest hair. Very tight in the joints. Skin tone, give or take. Again, you're not going to notice it from far away. Definitely a little bit more white pasty around the legs, but then again, this guy also did wrestle in a time where people didn't tan their legs all the time. Larry Zbyszko, and if you look, you can't tell the difference. Only when I get closer can you really tell the difference. But Larry did have a Mattel figure released in that 4-pack. I think I still have the Elite version of this figure as well up on Mercari to sell. But it works great. He was in WCW. So then I got creative. Because I was like, okay, so you got him. And then they had this 2-pack actually too. And I didn't need one of the guys because one of the guys is in the WWE roster. So, and then they just announced they're going to be making these guys again, which means double jointed arms, which definitely means I'm redoing this one myself. Nothing against the way he did it. It looks great. Looks good. I'm hoping I can mimic the same thing, but one half of Harlem Heat, Stevie Ray. So they're using the Mr. T torso, or it could be the Zeus. It doesn't matter. They're both the same torso. They, just obviously they're using the lower legs of Stevie. You can tell it's just the to keep the decals. The black and red, this is like the red and yellow. The black and red or black and yellow, the more updated one coming up in the future. Can't wait to get a hold of a Stevie Ray because he'll have double jointed arms. He'll be more updated. Obviously, I'll have to get used to the fact, and it'll probably still be the same style as this is because I'm using a Mr. T torso, so I won't have to worry about shaving down the neck peg, not like the newer figures coming out. I could use the Bobby Lashley body, but I'm not going to. He wasn't that jacked. More of a bulkier, big guy. So this works for Stevie Ray. Then he sent me this guy, and he said he didn't like how it looked. So he actually spent some time. He hodgepodged together this torso. I'm not sure what this torso is from. The joints are definitely tight. It is an interesting look on him, and I don't know if he was this ripped. But given that they made the head way too dang big to begin with, I think he did a good job with Ricky Steamboat. Now I gave him more of a jacked body. The head is massive. I hope if they do, go back and do something with Ricky Steamboat, they shrink down this head because this is like Jack's quality big head. Like he has big head syndrome. It just doesn't look natural. I thought about maybe putting the bandana, but then again it wouldn't make any sense because he didn't really wrestle with that when he had the decals and whatnot, and he had the more detailed dragon stuff. So there's Ricky Steamboat. What's fun about this one is actually I've got two versions of it. I've got this version, and then I've got his white version. But I decided to stick with the yellow version. I acquired the white version through a different trader, and then he was like, I was like, I want the yellow version instead. So we got the yellow version now instead, which is the Chase figure. So then I was waiting on it. I was debating on it. I already had his Legends of Wrestling figure. So, but then I thought to myself, yeah, it's cool. It's cool more in the box than anything because those figures are not exactly as articulate as these. So, why not just get this? It's only going to cost me like $80. Magnum TA. And again, you can see a little bit of difference in the skin tone compared to the legs. But he wasn't always, like I said, they weren't really out there tanning their legs as much. They were tanning the upper body. It was all upper body back in the 80s. It was all the chest hair and the Tom Selleck look. Legs they didn't seem to care too much about. I mean, half the time you were just in trunks and you had knee pads and boots. But this figure works. Great, from the great customizer. You can't see the line anywhere. I mean, he really sealed that in. You can't see it at all. So great job there. I added the elbow pad coloring a little bit just to kind of give him a little bit more. He didn't have pads when he came to me. Then I got creative. And I decided to build... I looked at Hacksaw Jim Duggan. The only one I had was that weird one with the tongue sticking out, which I may go back and try to find the other head version, which I think is more tan. I can. I'm not going to, may find it. You can find it. It's got to be willing to put the money down. And this originally was Michael Hayes custom. And then I decided I could do better with that. So I put Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Now, of course, he did wrestle in a red attire. I looked it up on the history book. He didn't have maybe the American flag knee pads, but he did wrestle in a red attire. So Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Now, I do want to go back and fix him into blue. Now that I know how to do this, this torso never been split, so this torso will likely get split, and I'll put it over on the blue, or I might even just pop this head. Well, no, I'm not going to do that, and then get a different blue tire and put it on there because he has to have chest hair, and then probably keep the boots. The boots have the little American flags on them. That's fine. Keep the knee pads. That's fine. Or maybe get the blue knee pads and try to do his 1980s look. But he was kind of bigger back then. So, I don't know. It does work for what it does. So, I took the Michael Hayes head, and I decided to throw it on this part. Now, I originally did this on as a Elite, because I thought this looks like a great 92 look of Michael Hayes more than that 1970s chest hair looking one. So when they announced that they made an ultimate of this person, I snagged it up, popped the head, switched the head, and made Michael Hayes, the 92 looking rocker. Obviously, this is there's no hearts on here, so it's not distinguishable as Shawn Michaels attire. You can look up 92 in WCW. Michael Hayes wearing stuff like this. It might have been a little bit more silvery, a little more chain looking. If they've ever made Ronnie Garvin, that's not who I'm thinking of. Who am I thinking of? His name escapes me right now. Shoot. Well, he came with Gorgeous. I'm trying to think of his name. But he had a tag team part. Wasn't Garvin. It was, I don't know. Maybe the comments will let me know. But the point is, I made Michael Hayes, WCW look, so it works perfectly for him. He was a United States champion at one point, around that time frame. Then somebody beat me to it. They built them. They wouldn't sell them to me, so I built my own. But I was always thinking about doing it to begin with, and this really kind of kicked my fascination with building my own figures as I decided to add these guys, the Nasty Boy Ultimates. I had to cut the shirts carefully, one better than the other one. You can see a little bit of glue residue on one of them more than the other one. Arms I switched over because that way they keep their tats, sags, and knobs. No other real tattoos there. Lower halves, awesome torsos. Can you really see a difference? I mean, except for you got butterfly joints. You can't tell. The torsos, of course, are really well put together. They don't make rattling sounds. So, and you're gonna have WCW. You're gonna have Nasty Boys at some point because they were tag champions a few times. Now, this is the one I'm not proud of. I saved it for second to last. I didn't know how to torso crack the newer torsos. I didn't know how to put them together. So when I opened up the Rick Rude, because I had a spare Rick Rude because I didn't need my other Rude anymore. I had this new one. I opened it up and I go, well, wait a minute. This is awkward. This doesn't look like the ones I've been trying to build. And I was just starting to learn how to build the other ones. And I didn't know about shaving down the neck peg to fit, to modify, if you will. So I thought to myself, okay, so I have to cut this down and then just apply glue and reattach it. It didn't work that well. I cut too much. And when I then tried to cut again, I ended up splitting that piece and it looked horrible. And it wasn't going to reattach properly. So in panic, I just grabbed the glue, I stuck the figure together, glued both sides, held on to it for a good 20 minutes, and I hodgepodged together a Brian Pillman. Flying Brian Pillman. And it looks great, except for you can see all the glue residue. And he does not even begin to move. If you did that, he'll just fall apart. There's nothing holding him together but the glue. Nice thing is the torso still works, or the side bend still works on both sides. Very tight, very great quality. It's not going to fall apart because this glue does not come across. Maybe if you really wrenched on this thing, you might just break it in two. But the nice thing is, like I said, I'm a little bummed that I panicked on it, but I didn't know what to do, and I was in a hurry because I just didn't know what to do. I thought, oh great, I screwed this figure. I was able to salvage it. It will go up for sale eventually because I am just recently got this torso. I actually bought another Rick Rude and Jake Roberts set to fix my Fandango into an Ultimate. And also use a Austin torso to build Tyler Breeze because he wasn't nearly as ripped as Fandango. I might buy this one again, and I might make Flying Brian again, or I might just make the fact that I'm making the 97 Brian Pillman instead and call it a day. And just sell this one off. It's still cool, and from afar away, if you're just a poser or you just pose your figures, you can't tell the difference. And then the last one I got really creative was I thought to myself, I have the TV title, but I don't have too many TV champions. And one TV champion that came to mind was this individual here, and I thought to myself, well, I'll be damned. Turns out the glue did get on his torso. So, unfortunately, in my earlier attempts, some of the glue did get to the torso and did keep it from spinning. But it looks really good. I'm just going to cut to the chase. I realize how long this video is already. William Regal, or Steven Regal, if you will. Lord Steven Regal. And I basically took the arm from his Elite figures, attached them on there because I didn't want, mismatch. It works. Obviously, it's the lower half of William Regal. He did wrestle in this attire in WCW when he took on Goldberg, but mostly he was over in late Attitude WWF when he showed up over there. He was a man's man. He's a man, such a man, such a man. But I didn't have that. I don't remember that one very much at all. I know he did wrestle like X-Pac in like a tournament. Then he kind of disappeared again. So he's in WCW. If they ever do make another Regal, I might retry this one again. If they ever go with the WCW look where he's got the blue with the red, which if they do that, I might try to make a Bobby Eaton as well. So who knows what Mattel is going to be releasing here. Hopefully soon we get some new talent. I know we're getting Pretty Deadly, which if the color skins match, I might update them to Ultimates as well. I'm already looking at Grayson Waller and LA Knight, yeah, of course. But for now, I'm just building guys as I go. That's my WCW roster, and you might think to yourself, you are destroying clearly so many elite figures. No one's going to buy your Ultimates. That's fine. I'm not here to sell my Ultimates. Some people have bought some of my Ultimates, or bought ones I've upgraded or done better with, and that's okay. I do this hobby for me. So if I want to turn and build half my elite outdated roster into Ultimates because I like the Ultimate look better, I'm going to do it. It might cost me more, but hey, I can't take it with me when I die. None of this can go with me when I die, so I might as well enjoy it while I can. Anyway, that's the WCW roster. Check back soon. I'll have another couple rosters posted. I've got at least 14 of these things. If you follow the Fig Fed channel and you've watched the results, you now have an idea of who it is that wrestles on what brand, at least for 3 of the brands so far. Check back next time. Till then, stay safe.